So one of the biggest releases of the last couple of weeks has been a little old game called Stray. Emphasis on the word little. There has been a bit of argument online at the moment about the length of Stray being only about sort of 5 hours. And I say only about, but that makes it sound way worse than it actually is. I think we've had this discussion a couple of times before on this podcast, but it's one of those things where
it never goes away.
Argument, yeah, it keeps coming back every year, and
it's like every time a reasonably high profile game is less than unlimited hours long. It just keeps coming up again. It happened with Goose Game. Remember that? Everybody loved Goose Game.
Everyone was it was a game scream about it.
Yeah, people who were playing it couldn't shut up about it, and then the people who were like, "Oh, why are they asking us to pay money for a game that's like 3 hours long?" Well, just pay the fucking money and play the game, you turds. It was the same with Unpacking as well. Unpacking's like 4 or 5 hours long or whatever, and people are like, "Oh, I'm not going to spend all this money on a game that's only 5 hours long."
And those are not games that you want to be longer than 5 hours.
Exactly. That's the thing that always gets me. It's like these games, if they were longer than that, they'd be fucking boring. How many hours do you need of the goose carrying a knife around for it to be?
I do love violence and I do love Goose.
Yeah, but it's funny for 1 hour. If you were to do it for 15 hours,
Matt, what you've forgotten so funny. That I have the brain of a 5-year-old. You jangle the keys in front of my eyes, I'm gonna be like, yeah.
Everything I know about Stray is if it was longer than what it is, then it'd get boring again.
Yeah, you wouldn't want it to. How many mechanics could you make by being a cat? You know, how long could that go for?
Exactly.
Yeah, not that long, realistically. Yeah, I don't know. It seems really bizarre to me because the older that I've gotten, this is now coming along as a age realization for me, I guess. The older that I've gotten, the more I've respected games that don't waste my time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't have the energy nor the effort to sit down to play something that's 80 hours but bloated. I'm getting value.
To our age.
Yeah. I don't care about value because if I'm going to buy a game, I spend 60 quid on it tops. Sorry, 100 Australian dollars on it tops, 125 maybe. And if I do that and it's 80 hours, but I only want to play 4 of them because it's a miserable slog, that's a waste of my money.
Exactly.
I'd rather have something that I can think back on and be like, wow, that was a great time. I enjoyed that thoroughly. I might play that again in 2 years.
See, I'd even say I would rather spend more money for a decently developed short indie game, than pay recommend retail price for an AA game and find that 10 minutes in, this is a shit game and just be over it.
I mean, that's the thing. I would happily pay full price for Stray because I like the idea of being a kitty running around the cyberpunk world, playing with robots and stuff for 5 hours. That sounds like a great time to me. Whereas The Last of Us could be 70 hours long for all I give a crap, and I just don't give a crap because
I'm very curious about who's buying The Last of Us and going, "Oh, I spent my money, better get my money's worth. Time to collect 500 bottle caps."
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, right, so there are games that are functionally endless and designed around being kind of unlimited content that in principle I don't mind so much. For example, Fall Guys. I like the idea of Fall Guys. Fall Guys is a fun concept that I would get a lot of kind of enjoyment out of were it a more focused experience. But I downloaded the thing on Switch just to finally give it a go. And I played it 3 times and then realized I just don't have the time, energy, or interest in committing what Fall Guys is asking of me to get the most out of it.
It's like season pass syndrome. It's like they want you to play the game for as long as they can.
You kind of need to commit 30 hours per week to get everything out of Fall Guys that you need to, and it's just no, I don't want to.
I don't want to do that.
I like Fall Guys. I have a great time watching some people play Fall Guys. There's a YouTuber that a Japanese YouTuber that I like to watch. That he just kind of streams games, and he has a great time with Fall Guys, and I enjoyed watching his streams. But I just don't have the time for Fall Guys.
I love that he needed to clarify that it was a Japanese YouTuber because God forbid people think he would watch one of those Western YouTubers.
Well, yeah, I don't want people thinking that there's like an American YouTuber that I got to stay on brand here, Harvard. Yeah, so I'm a big fan of shorter games as well. Actually, I should probably qualify that because I do like RPGs, obviously. I like longer games as well when it kind of is appropriate for the game to be that long. And I think that's always the thing that I've said is a game should only be as long as it needs to be to have that full experience. If the game needs to be an 100-hour long RPG epic, then fine, I'll take it on those merits. But if it is a game that could have been 5 hours and it's been stretched to 40 or 50, then that's it. I have no interest. Well, Persona is a great example. Persona 5 is no different to Persona 4 functionally. Like, it doesn't tell a story that's any different. It doesn't have themes that are any different. It is the same thing, really. And yet Persona 4 is half the length of Persona 5. And
isn't Persona 4 already like 80 hours?
Yep.
Well, 60 really. 60 you can get through.
That's why 5 feels like, like at the start it's okay. And then you get like playing Persona 4 before, like I sort of knew where roughly I should be month-wise and like how to space out the days and that sort of thing. And then Persona 5, it just gets to like, like after a while, it's like, well, there's still so much content. I'm like, what's happening? And then they release like that extra character and all that other stuff, and it's like a separate game. And it's like, why? I don't.
Yeah,
want
Persona
to play
5.
This.
Persona 5 Royal, which takes the 100-hour Persona 5 and balloons it out to 130 or so.
Takes my biggest criticism of Persona 5 and makes it worse.
It's insane. It's like, that's a good example of a game that it has been stretched beyond its concept. And it annoys me. It really, video games are the only industry the only art form where this is an issue. Every other art form, people accept the idea that the artist should be, the artwork should be as extended as it needs to be only.
I mean, Matt, there's always the Victorian novel from the 1800s.
Well, War and Peace is a great example. War and Peace is a book that needed to be that long. It is a long book and it takes a long time to read. It needs to be that long and everybody accepts it on that merit. Nobody says War and Peace is great value because it is so long. And by contrast, nobody says, "Oh, I'm not going to buy Animal Farm."
Animal Farm,
the movie.
Animal House. I'm not going to buy Animal Farm because it's only 70 pages long or however long it is. It's just such a stupid argument. When you think about it, you apply it to any other art form, and it's just such a stupid argument. I'm not going to go to the Louvre to see the Mona Lisa because the Mona Lisa is only 20 centimeters by 20 centimeters by 50 centimeters inside. I need a painting that's at least 1 meter by 2 meters before it's good.
But to be fair, those big ass like giant wall paintings are cool as hell though.
That's the thing. If they need to be that big, they need to be that big. I went to an exhibition of war art back when, I can't remember what the event was, but they had a full archive of kind of art of paintings from World War I and II, and they, for what they wanted to convey and what they needed to be, they needed to be massive size paintings. It was part of the whole theme of the messaging that they were trying to get across with those paintings, and those were kind of spectacular and interesting to look at. But if the Mona Lisa was that big, it would be pointless, and nobody would suggest that, because in the world of painting, there just isn't that idea that value is connected to content, which is the other point I have. It's the thing that really pisses me off is people say, "Oh, it's only 5 hours long, so it's not worth $30." And it's that idea that the value of the game is connected to how long it is. That is kind of the crux of the issue that I have. If you don't want to play 5 hours,
they'll also go see a movie that'll last for like, an hour and a half to 2 hours, and they'll pay $25.
No, the worst example of that is everybody loves going to music concerts, right? So everybody goes to a music concert. A music concert is what, $200 for 4 hours or whatever at most. If you're willing to spend that, then the length of the game is not the issue that you have with the price of it.
Oh, I thought you were going to make a point about how like going to a festival, which is longer, is a worse experience than going to a concert of one artist that
I
you
think
like,
it is.
which is
That
very true. Music
Especially when you
festivals-
get rained on.
Yeah, I was going to say.
yeah, like in Splendor in the Grass right now.
Splendor in the Grass here. It's a pretty wet and miserable thing to be at right now.
When has there been a good Splendor though?
Oh, don't tell them that. They'll get mad about that.
There's no overlap between people going to Splendor and listening to our dumb podcast.
Yeah, I'm all into this digitally downloaded. I'm like, listen to it while I'm listening to some Godzillas.
Godzillas?
Good.
I don't know.
Excuse me?
You know, the one which is the feel good ink. Do 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 do.
Gorillas.
Godzillas.
Did I just have a stroke?
That is a good name. That is a good name for a band, actually. Godzillas is a
The
really good name
Godzillas.
for a band.
I felt like I literally, like my brain stopped working. I was like, am I losing it? No, Seymour, it's the kids who are out of touch.
I'm older than you.
Actually, going back to Persona 5, one interesting thing about that is because the human brain is really bad at doing proportions. So if you think about Persona 4 being 60 hours, Persona 5 being 100 hours, that's a difference of 40 hours. And in my head, that's like, oh, that's not that much more. It's not more than double. Whereas you could play Stray 8 times in that amount of time, or like 8 games with the quality of Stray that you could in how much more time Persona 5 wasted of your life.
Or just do a week of work. Like,
We'll
think
do
about
anything.
it. Think about it. 40 hours is a full-time job. So, yeah, if you think about that kind of amount of productivity that you need to put into to get one of these games done, it really is insane. And again, I don't have a problem with games that need to be long because they need to be long. But if it's just long for the sake of it, which is increasingly what game developers feel the pressure to do, then we've got a problem. And that is really the other problem here. It's game developers know full well, absolutely know that there is an expectation that their game needs to be this long, and that adjusts how they go about making these things. Persona 5, if there was like an ideal world where the director didn't have to make the longest JRPG you can possibly manage, I imagine, I'm 99% sure Persona 5 would have been a shorter thing if he was actually able to work to his creative vision, because that was what Persona 4 was. But it's just, things have changed, and game developers feel this need to continue to throw content at people. You've got to throw more content. It's got to be more content. And it ruins games. There are so few games that you could do that to and not end up destroying things. Every time there's a new Yakuza game, I worry, because that creep of content is going to hit a point where the game falls over as a result. It hasn't happened yet, but with Yakuza 8 on the way, I'm going to have that same concern again. It's going to be a bigger game once again. It's going to be, there will hit a point where it goes from being quaintly entertaining because it is that open world kind of experience to being just bloated shit. And
got to recreate the entirety of Tokyo. Have fun, Matt.
Yeah, that'll be it then. I'm out. Once it happens, I tap out of Yakuza. And I don't want to do that. I want to keep enjoying these games that I enjoy, but because they feel this need to keep creeping the amount of stuff they throw into them, it's just...
Yeah, it's like 50 square kilometers of Tokyo. You must eat once at every single izakaya in order to finish the game.
Yeah, exactly. They're going to find ways of forcing you to do stuff that you just don't want to do. They're going to have 70 different escort management mini games in there and stuff. But
I mean, I'm down for the casino management games. I love that about like the series. Like that was like the best one where I had all my casinos, all ranking in money. You know, that was great.
Yeah, but there's this pervasive thought that if players like one mechanic, the developers just like, let's just give them more of that until they don't.
Yeah, it's like excess. It's death by excess. Absolutely. And it's very worrying within video games because it's never seen as like, why, like, what is the purpose of the gameplay in this situation? Like, what is it actually trying to do? And it's what Ubisoft did, where they're like, the purpose of the gameplay is to have the player play it.
Actually,
that's the only purpose.
Can I survey you guys? What percentage of games would you say you play to completion? And what percentage do you play until you get bored and fizzle out?
0.
Oh,
like I don't play
hardly any
games. I think I have like 1 platinum on my PlayStation.
Or not platinum, I
from-
just mean like finishing the story. Like if you were to
finishing
pick
the
up,
story, then I'll generally do it for games that I enjoy. So yeah, it'd be a decent percentage that I actually finish. But in terms of, I mean, a lot of the time that isn't finishing the game anymore. Like there's all the post game or end game stuff, that you're meant to work through. Even with RPGs, you're meant to go and level up shit to beat secret extra bosses, and that's the whole point of the game. And these kinds of things are, again, it's just more and more bloat to try and encourage you to keep playing. So I try not to engage with any of that. Like I said, I think I've got one platinum from my entire time that I've had my PlayStations, and that was just a game that gave it to you when you got to the actual end of the game. So yeah.
What's interesting is I feel like I don't know any major beats in like really long games. Like Stray, for example, I can be like, okay, well in Stray, it's like, say like roughly 8 hours or something like that. Like I can say that, to progress through the game, you have to do X, which then leads you to there, which then leads you to there. That's a major plot point. So that's part of that, which then you have like conjoining sections which then take you to there, then there, then there. So in Stray, I can be like, okay, awesome. That's the main beats of the game. That's what I need to do. Cool. But something like Persona 5 or other really long RPGs, I struggle to be like, okay, well, what are the main defining parts of that really long experience, which I could say definitely needed to be in that game or made me enjoy that game. And I really struggle to remember good parts of Persona 5 outside of like the theme and maybe the music. Like it's like,
yeah, I mean,
really
it's
hard.
great. It's a great point there. The longer the game is, the less stuff in it you're likely to remember coming out of it. So there aren't that many games where I would say that I remember more than long games. I mean, that I would say I remember more than a couple of kind of key points. I mean, we're talking about Xenoblade Chronicles earlier. Xenoblade Chronicles 2, about the only thing I really
I
remember
have
from that.
no idea what happens in that game.
Is
no clue.
The only story beat that I really remember is the first time that you kind of go down
Put your
under.
hands on my chest.
No, go down under and run into the Aussies, because I remember that because the Aussie accents were just that good. Well, not good. Fun.
Yeah.
Fun. Fun.
Yeah, that game is also too long, and also has the issue that a lot of JRPGs have, where it's just a story that is for story's sake. Like it's not in service of anything other than just being like, oh,
because
isn't it quirky?
That's the kind of the MMO kind of approach that they've taken with the structure of those games.
It's not good.
And Final Fantasy 14 is a great example of that, or any MMO, but the one I played the most of is Final Fantasy 14. That's a really great example of that. I remember very little about any of the plot of any of the game. I have spent my time clock, I eventually got up to like 12, 13, 14, 15 weeks. I don't know. It was an obscene number of hours I put into Final Fantasy 14 over the years. And sure that I remember in a general sense enjoying the game, but because it was just endless piles of content thrown at me, none of it is, well, it's not Wuthering Heights, right? It's not like I remember the plot of the thing and can kind of give you a summary. I can't really have a discussion about the plot of Final Fantasy 14 because I don't remember it clearly enough, if that makes sense.
But there's one thing that you do remember about Final Fantasy 14, and Alan, I think you know what that is.
I'm smirking, but I forgot that like it wasn't a visual medium for a second. And I was smirking at the camera on my laptop very, very heavily.
Well, I mean, Chocobo shows up, and also, there's the Good King Mog thing. But that's
no. Is there?
Yeah.
Oh,
it's a
pretty crazy.
So, Alan, there's this song, right? It's called Good King Mog, and it plays when you fight the big Mog boss. It's like this optional bonus battle.
Fight King Mog.
Yeah, it's this optional battle you don't have to do. But I've spent a lot of time replaying. I know I haven't told you this before, but I've spent a lot of time playing this battle over and over again because the song is this really kind of Danny Elfman style thing, and it's great fun. But I don't remember any of the plot of it.
I should listen to this song. I should download
it
onto my laptop and use it every month.
I'll link it to you.
Yeah, I should do that at some point. I feel like I'm wasting time if I don't. This is a bad
I mean,
bit, but I'm here
at this
for it.
point, that's all that music is. Just Good King Mog. Like, there's no other music track in the world.
I've heard
Yes.
tales of music tracks that were not Good King Mog, and they were only spoken of in hushed whispers.
I mean, that's the reason people were disappointed that the festival got rained out, because it was just going to be each band was going to do their own interpretation of Good King Mog. That was like the whole track playlist.
Yeah, it's like how Ride My Chocobo was a thing.
Yeah.
I would unironically go to Splendor in the Glass if there was Good King Mog played by every single band which was on that lineup.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
that
like
sounds like a
there's
great
no
time.
overlap.
a folksy take on Good King Mog, a death metal take on Good King Mog.
It's just Josh Pike being sad.
And especially with the reputation these sort of shows have for, recreational activities, I think it would be very interesting.
Why did you say it like that? Just say chuffing pills. I don't know. I this is not even a video game podcast at this point, but I thought of a very funny joke, so we're gonna go with it. Instead of Splendor in the Grass, a soft drink company starts using artificial sweetener and calling it Splendor in the Glass. I got nothing.
You only came up with that because
that was the joke.
they said glass instead of grass.
Yeah, and I was like, that's genius.
That was the joke, Alan.
That was the joke.
Oh, okay. Yeah, very good one.
Thank you.
Yeah, you promised so much there. You were like, I've thought of this really great joke and we're going to derail the whole podcast.
To be fair, I didn't say it was good. I said it was a joke.
Well, it was a joke. I do agree with you on that.
There was a joke in there. I disapprove of the quality. However,
You just had to get it out. Sometimes you just gotta
look,
get it
it'd
out.
be a shame. Look, it's art. It was a short joke. Didn't cost you much. Good value.
You
It
don't
was
have
good
any
content.
children and we don't know about,
Exactly.
because that was a very big dad joke.
Yeah. I'm a dad now.